Greetings and welcome to Virtuoso.
Yeah, all right, that's enough of that. So yeah, here we are, aren't we? We're in Virtuoso, and it was released yesterday, so it's good news for everybody. I really apologize about that intro; it was absolutely awful. I will never do anything like that again in my life, unless you ask me to, and then even then, I'll probably consider that it's not a very good idea. So I've just noticed something. Actually, I haven't used this microphone in a long time, but basically, if you come into Virtuoso, you bring up your menu by pressing the Y button. It's all explained in the handy tutorial, by the way. There's a microphone in here, and you can bring that up, and then you can do awful intros like that. But what I have just noticed, and I wanted to mention this because I literally have just noticed this, is that you can now, and I can't remember if you could do this before, but look, you can actually pick, if you have other inputs, which I do, that's my main sound card there. I can actually, it appears, use my sound card, which has quite a lot of inputs, so I could plug all sorts of stuff into this, which I haven't tried yet, but I'm going to do that another time because I want this to be a kind of basic video, a kind of tutorial. I guess I was wanting to make something about the release anyway, and then I saw that there was a few people kind of asking some questions in the Discord, and it's great to see that there's lots of new people joining, by the way. I'm really happy to see that, and I knew it was going to happen because as soon as you get something on Steam and you get it on the official Quest store, you get people getting interested, don't you? And that's exactly what the devs team wanted. And they've done so well to kind of push this and get people excited about it. So people are making videos about it, other people with many more subscribers than me. So that's nice to see because that's going to bring more and more people. And then before we know it, we're just going to be everybody and his dog and his mate's llama is going to be playing Virtuoso. So that's what we want, isn't it? Just everybody on it. So should we get on with something? Let's get on with something. So yeah, I'm definitely going to try plugging in my microphone or even like a guitar or something into here. I think it could get pretty interesting. It might actually be better for the latency because the when you use the Quest microphone, the latency is not that good. So when I speak like this, you can see, well, I can't actually hear it at all because, oh yeah, look. It's feeding back on itself because I changed it to the wrong thing. But woo, yeah. I'm getting distracted again. You see, there's quite a lot of latency on that. So right, let's just close the microphone. Let's have a look. So I don't know why, but I'm in the most boring environment here. They've just added, when you come to here, in the preferences, you can change your environment in here. So if you click on this one, this is the original one, which is called Islands. Didn't know that, but that's what it's called. And this is like the classic one. Very fond of this place. I like the way that it moves to the music. You know, if you've got a beat going, it will actually be in time with your beat. So if you come here, if you ever want to set your tempo, by the way, it will set it when you play some drums. But if you just come to your track settings, you can say, you know what, I really want to make something that's going to be kind of like, I don't know, like some kind of lo-fi, low tempo stuff. They're sort of normally sitting around the 80 to 90 BPM kind of, you know, quite slow. So there we go. That's now bopping on that kind of 87.9. And you can actually put the haptic metronome on as well, which is nice because you can feel it in your controllers as well. So that's, I always have that on. Although I don't quite know what auto does, but it seems to be on at the moment. Maybe it turns off when you start playing or something. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, the only other thing that's really useful in here is the fact that you can change your scale in here. So again, if you've got an idea for a scale or a song, you know, you want to start something, you definitely want it to be in E, you just come in here and you can change that to E. And then, you know, E minor would be a classic one, I guess, but you can go through and they've got the modes and various scales. So yeah, minor's like a good one to start with. If you're not particularly musically proficient, that was correct the way I said it, I think. You know, a minor scale is very commonly used in a lot of music, a lot of pop music and a lot of rock music. Again, the major is as well, but I just find that your minor is going to give you, I don't want to say a better sound, but major tends to be, and there's loads of examples of good songs written in major keys, but quite often it can be a little bit a bit too upbeat, a bit too cheesy sometimes. But again, it all depends how you play the instruments and how you implement those notes that are in the scale. So really, there are no rules. Just play with them. That's the best thing to do, I think. I mean, I didn't know about a lot of these modes for a long time until I started learning them on guitar, you know, and even now I don't really know them particularly well. I have a sort of feeling about them. I know the I don't know how you say this, Phrygian. That I like that one, that mode. It's kind of like gives you kind of like a sort of quite interesting Easterny sort of vibe. And then the rest, I can't really remember. So yeah, so let's just go with something in minor. So I thought I would make something sort of video, and it's not going to be very well structured, so I apologize. It's not going to be particularly like quick or structured, but I'll make a little video sort of just explaining how I approach structure in Virtuoso. And to be honest, I'm probably not the best person to ask, but I'm going to put a couple of guys in the channel description, the video description down below. There's two guys that make really good stuff. There's Faith and there's Glitch Cloud, and there are many others, but these two in particularly over the last year and more, I think, have been making videos and song examples for a long time. So these guys know it really well. And some of the arrangements that they come up with, honestly, really good. Like they put so much effort into it. Like I tend to come in here and I just make stuff quite quickly, and I never really get around to building up big structure and big arrangement. But I'm going to work on that, and I will hopefully do more in the future. But so let's get on with something. So if you played the demo, you only had the M pads, the harp, and the board. So now if you bought this, you now get the organ or the organ. I don't know why it's called that. The cluster, which I really like, and I'll show you in a second. The Wavemin, and then the microphone, which I really badly demonstrated at the start. So if you start by making a looper, it's probably the best thing to do. I've already set a tempo there, and I can feel that going, at a certain time. And what is quite a good thing to do, actually, and I'll do this, just sort of remember this as a trick. If you want to play something kind of loose, like not necessarily regimented on the sync. So for example, if I go to a quarter note sync here and I make this, which I think is a cowbell, you'll see that whatever I do, doesn't matter how much I hit it, it's just going to be kind of like a metronome. So you could use that as a metronome, but you could actually find a sound maybe that's a bit more like a classic metronome, like maybe that. That's kind of a metronome sound, isn't it? So if I now record this, and let's make it a bar, so you can make it a loop there. You can do these whatever you want. There's more. It goes all the way up to 32, I think. What does that do? Oh, I don't think I've ever really played with those settings. Interesting. Something else to have a look at. But yeah, so let's just go with a bar. And if I start that, it's not going to record anything until I start playing, which is a great feature. And it should stop after one bar, although it will overlap. So if you keep playing, I think it will just keep overlapping, and it gets quite phasey and it doesn't sound very nice. I can't remember if there's a way to make it stop. But anyway, let's just try this. So if I do this, you see I've now got like a metronome, which is just a nice way to start, because then if you're like not sure if you want to play exactly on the beat, you just want to play something like, I don't know, let's grab this bass drum here. Maybe something like that. I'm going to go quite low. So that's not recording at the moment, right? So I could be like, so that's exactly on the beat, but I could take that off now, but use this metronome as a sort of guide, and then maybe like grab a snare as well. So let's grab a snare as well. And then so I'm going to use that as my guide, but I'll do like a 4-bar, I think. And this might be a little bit out of time, but I'm going to try and go for a sort of less quantized feel today. That's the idea anyway. We'll see how it works out. I mean, that was a little bit off, but it's fine, Sometimes you want that slightly off feeling, especially if you're doing something quite slow. And like this, there just sometimes feels like there is a bit of latency in here, because I think, I've seen one of the biggest complaints. I'm just going to stop that briefly. One of the biggest complaints about VR music making. I was watching this podcast recently. Someone had made a video about one of my videos. Really appreciate the fact that they did that, but I know that there was a lot of talk about like not getting feedback, like haptic feedback, because if I hit this drum, it's not like I'm hitting a drum, is it? Like it's not bouncing back. But I think in time, we will get that kind of stuff, with the kind of force feedback and all this sort of stuff. So I think we'll get there eventually, but it doesn't mean that you can't make music in here. It just means that there's some extra challenges. And I like challenges. So, and also I think that the VR benefits, maybe there are some, there's some disadvantages to try and make music in virtual reality, but there's also some advantages. So I think sometimes you just got to, take the rough with the smooth. Should we get on? Let's get on. We're getting on. running out of time. But I told you I'm just going to make something out of time today because that's what we're doing. I don't know why I didn't just record a smaller loop for that, to be honest. Maybe a tom. And then what you could do, you could always like quantize some of the drums. So maybe you've had the tempo sync off this whole time, but now you're like, let's tempo sync these toms, which is very straight. And you see, I'm not really like planning any of this. I mean, like it's probably not that great either, but yeah, I'm just playing, just play. That's the strength of this app, just play. It doesn't matter what happens. You can always turn this stuff off afterwards. And definitely play with the pitches, get the pitches of these drums, because you can always turn some stuff down, maybe you're like, it's all a bit too much. And don't forget that you can, with these controls, you can use the filter of the synth. So this is the Helm synthesizer sitting in the background of this. If you want to look up, just Google Helm synthesizer. That's what's making this noise in the background. But if you turn your left controller, that's going to do the filter cutoff, and it's really expressive. I think it's the most expressive use of a VR controller you can have, I think. And equally with the pitch bend, it can be really nice for making these kind of vibrato, sort of wobbly noises. Combined, it works really well. Just be really careful with the pitch bend though. If you're, let me make it a bit higher. So if you're on a note like this, if you've got your pitch bend control out, so it'll always be your right hand, yeah? If I come in like this, twisted, it's gonna take me down 2 semitones, I think. Which I think is the maximum amount, and then 2 semitones up is the max amount up. But if I then take my hand out, it's going to stay in that pitch bend, even if I move the notes. So just be aware of that you have to come in straight like that with that pitch bend. You can, if it's annoying you, and for some people it does, I know, you can change that in here in the preferences, the classic mode. Yeah, so if you now come in, you turn that off in that mode there, controls. Now it doesn't pitch bend anymore, but it will still do the filter sweep. But I really like having the pitch bend. I think it's one of the most sort of kind of interactive parts of using the VR controllers for this kind of stuff. I mean, it's really quite nice. It would work quite well with a real keyboard. If you're playing keys with one hand and you were bending with a VR controller, it would actually work quite well, like a Wii controller or something like that. But we're getting off track again. So another way to structure your tracks is you could sort of make some drums or whatever like this, and then for each of these you've actually got these settings in here which allow you to kind of fade stuff in and fade stuff out. You can also drag these out, so for example if you just want to be like, that's how I want to start my metronome, is it? That's my metronome. So, you know, that's not a particularly exciting way to use it, but what you could do is you could actually record like a one-shot thing like this. Let me get this sort of... So maybe that could be like a one shot, right? So let's just try recording a one shot with this. So we'll just be like, and then stop that. And then if I stop that looping, I think you can just say one shot and then say instant. And now when you bring that in, it didn't do what I expected it to do because I had the start sync on. So if you turn it to instant, it will now play. It will play as soon as you hit it. So you could actually use this to build up almost like samples if you wanted to make kind of drum samples and things like that. And then you could play your beat, which would be on the beat. You know, like that sort of thing. So you can do things like that, but obviously a lot better when you come up with your own better ideas. But, you know, that's just one way that you can trigger things. You don't always have to trigger things on the beat, you know? So one good way of using this, I guess, is to kind of fade stuff in. So maybe you'd rather the beat, rather than it starting kind of straight away in your face, you can have it so it fades in and out. So if I put 4 and 4 like this, it's going to fade in over 4 bars. And I can even record like another one. Let's do another one. You know, like that sort of thing. But I'm just sort of saying there's no rules, basically. What I would really like them to add in the future, and I hope they will think about doing this, and I think they already have thought about it. But obviously, everything's kind of a compromise when you're making stuff in VR. They want to make sure that it all works on the Quest, because, you know, you could say, why can't I do everything I can do in Ableton Live or something? It's like, well, you're running on a mobile processor on the Quest, and that's their kind of, you know, they really want to make this a good experience that isn't struggling, because it's all well and good making all these features, but if it can't run, it can't run. So, but yeah, what I would like to be added at some point is maybe if I could add some like reverb after the recording, because then you could do these one shots and have a nice big swell of reverb or something like that over the top, and it would just make the whole thing a little bit more fluid, you know, because if I bring in these drums, they at least you got this fade in, but it'd be really nice again if I could sort of suddenly add some reverb over the top of this to kind of give it a little bit more of a feel. But yeah, when it comes to actually structuring something, so I'll just delete these for now. And actually, when you delete those pads, it doesn't delete the sound. So if you do want to go back to them, you can. You just go down there. But yeah, I guess so. If I had a drum beat like this, I might say, well, all right, let's grab a sound, any sound. And I don't know these sound off by heart, so I just grab them and play. But I often start with a bass line. So we'll try doing, I'm going to try and do an auto, because I can't actually remember how it works. Nothing like trying it straight on live, is it? So let's give it a go. So what does that do? Oh, when you hit it, it stops. Okay, so if you mess it up, you just press re-record, yeah? maybe I've recorded that bass line there and I'm like, yeah, I quite like that, let's try that. So what I often do at that point is maybe jump up an octave or two, because then you can do a lead over the top. See the pitch? Let's try that. There we go, we've got like two things going on now. And then you could say, well, let's bring in, maybe take out some elements at this point. You could say, well, let's bring in a cluster. So the cluster's like a chords creator, basically. So if you put your hand in here, it's going to play a chord. And if you move your hand up, it's going to play like an inversion. I think. I might be wrong. But it changes the chord shape. Some of this. Rename these things if you want. So if you want to sort of get, you know, a little bit more structured, you can say, well, this is the bass. This is kind of the saw. synth saw. I don't know, synth. Just call it synth. Sometimes I like to do this sort of thing, so say, well, let's bring those chords down for a minute. And then let's say, let's bring in a wavemin, why not? So the wavemin, you've got to be slightly careful because the wavemin, like the pitch of it is not fixed. So if you bring your hand into the middle, you've got to find the pitch. Rule, just mess around. The feedback will create these kind of interesting, weird resonance sort of things. And if you add some echo, I sometimes think the best way to kind of create structure in a program like this, and a lot of programs actually, is to just drop things in and out. Because basically, your ears will get tired, you know? Like, as some of you probably listening to this are probably thinking like, yeah, I'm getting tired of this, right? And I've probably already turned the video off. But if you feel like you're getting bored of something, just get rid of some elements. Just take them out. And then you almost end up with a different section without doing anything. Let's just try to do some vocals, eh? Why not? Structure in this song. There is no structure in this song. There is no structure in this song, and that's why I'm going to press stop. And you can see in the effects here, I put the echo really high, so it's just going to go forever, basically, until I stop it. Shall I stop it? It's getting quite annoying, isn't it? But yeah, it's definitely worth playing with everything in this app because, you know, I'm no authority on any of this. And as you can see, like, it was a bit of a mess, but I still think it was quite fun and I quite enjoyed it. And that's the main thing, isn't it? Like, if you're enjoying it, because like I see it's a bit of a game, this, but it's more than just a game. Like, I feel like this is quite a creative use of your time. Like, fair enough, like, you're probably not going to write the next sort of #1 album on this, but then who says you're not? I mean, like, you know what happens like all the time is that people sit in their armchairs and they look at stuff and they go like, well, that's not real music or something like that. That's not how you make beats, you know. But like, at some point, do you remember like sort of 20 years ago when people were using things like Dan CJ, and then they moved into things like Reason, and then they moved into things like Ableton, and they moved into all sorts of other applications like Logic and whatever app you use. I mean, like, Cubase has been around a long time. There's still people that use it. You know, Affected Mushroom would be the main guys that would use Cubase, and it amazes me the sounds they get out of that thing because they're absolute masters of it. But I'm not trying to argue that Virtuoso is in the place to rival anything like Cubase or anything like that just yet. Not maybe just yet. But I think as a tool for just kind of getting some creativity out in a quick and sort of interesting way, I think Virtuoso's got that ability. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to be able to do a little bit more with these sounds. I suppose the main thing I'd quite like to be able to do is filter stuff after you've recorded it. So, for example, if I played this bass, which is taking ages to come in. There we go. Because it must be the setting I've got on here or something. I don't know what that is. But yeah, it'd be really nice if I could say, you know what, I want to scoop off some of that high end on that, so I'll just stick a filter on it afterwards, and maybe have the filter next to it, so you could bring it out. You could bring the pad out like this. Oops, I moved it. So you could bring the pad out, and maybe it has a filter on it or something, and you could do little filter sweeps and things like that. I think that would be really good for building in structure. because I talked about stopping and starting loops. Well, I think master filters, or at least bus filters, so having a group filter, for instance, would be really good. You could filter down your drums, because that's a really nice way, and it's like a really typical way to create movement in an electronic track, is to just filter your drums. Like literally, that's pretty much what 9 times out of 10 what people do on dance tracks. They just filter the drums down, or they filter down the bass, or bring back up a pad or something like that. And it's all about just creating these little movements inside the track, which you can do already with the volumes. But if you could do filters, and you could add in little cheeky reverb sort of stabs and stuff, because then you can create these kind of like I was saying, these kind of one-shot ones, which would be something like this, and then you could add a reverb tail onto it, and it would go off for like, you could have it going off for like 2 minutes or something, and then you could filter that down, So I'm really looking forward to them adding in some of that sort of stuff. But until that point, we've got this, and there's still a lot you can do with it. So feel free to ask any questions. Like I said, there's other people that know a lot more about structure, I think, in Virtuoso than me. But I just really enjoy coming in and playing with it. And I don't try to plan too much. Like, just play with it. And I assume it helps if you're a bit musical already. Like, if you've got a musical ear and you've already played an instrument. Like, I'm not a particularly great musician, but I've played musical instruments probably for most of my life. I picked up a guitar when I was about, I don't know, I used to play it when I was really young, but I didn't play it properly. Started learning properly about the age of 12, probably. Used to play on a piano quite a lot as well, just playing with notes, like never really knowing what the notes were, but just sort of finding notes that sounded good to my ears. And I think through that, I do have like quite a good ear for pitch, but I'm not like saying I'm particularly good at making music, but I think I have quite a good ear for pitch, and that probably helps, especially with things like the Wavemin, which again I didn't play perfectly, but the best way to get good on the stuff, though, is just to experiment. Like, watch videos of people that know what they're doing, of course, but don't get too hung up on doing it the right way. Just do it your way and just mess around and play with it, and then you can share it with people if you want, or you can just keep it completely secret, because there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, I've got hours of music that I've made that I'm never going to play to anyone. That's right, you're never going to hear it, because it's it's private and it's rubbish, or at least I'm not ready to share it. And I think that's fine. Like, it's therapy at the end of the day. Music is totally therapy, and it's just a great way to spend your time. So just come in and do it, and don't worry too much. Just play, enjoy, and have fun. All right, cheers.